Welcome back to the channel. And what made me react to this today? How Britain starved Ireland. Well, I was searching about the potato famine and I seen this was a popular watch. And but what made me really want to even look that whole the idea up was I was watching Sinead O'Connor, and she just is really inspiring. She really is. Rest in power to that beautiful soul. Um, and excuse me if I pronounced her name wrong, Sinhead O'Connor. But with that being said, we're smoking on my dragons, divine, righteous, almighty, greats, overachieving, never slacking. We're flying over to Ireland. The original link will be in the description. This video is from the Gravel Institute, and I ain't gonna waste no more time. Here we go.
This is a story about Ireland, and it's a story about an event that you've probably heard of, but might not know much about. It's usually called the Irish Potato Famine. In most history books, the Irish Potato Famine doesn't get a lot of attention. At most, it appears as a pretty simple story to explain Irish migration abroad. In the beginning, Irish people depended on the potato for food. Then there was a potato disease. Many Irish died, and others migrated abroad on what they called coffin ships to England, Scotland, Australia, and North America. But the story of the famine is a lot more complicated and a lot more disturbing than that. It was much less natural and much more artificial than you might think, and it all goes back to a man named Thomas Malthus. Malthus was a British economist, and in 1798, Malthus put forward an influential idea and a rather counterintuitive one. Malthus said that when food production increased, people were better off for a little. But that improvement led to an increase in population, which eventually caused societal problems. There were too many people and not enough food to go around. Poverty and famine were the natural results. Like animals, Malthus said, humans had a certain carrying capacity. When it exceeded that carrying capacity, enough people would die to return the population to a natural equilibrium. So in the 19th century, that so-called Malthusian model became the conventional wisdom in European intellectuals. It led them to focus on what they called overpopulation and made them think of famine as nature reducing population to a sustainable level. No serious economist today will tell you that having too many people is the reason people are poor or hungry. In 1981, the economist Amartya Sen explained the real cause of most historical famines. If you look at the historical record, Sen said, a collective lack of food is never the real problem. The cause of famines, while it often has something to do with a decline in agricultural production, is more related to the unequal distribution of food. There's enough food for everyone, but some people can't exchange what they have for that food. Sen found that famine is usually not the result of too little food, but of exploitation and unequal economic relations. Irish people were the other against whom the British could define themselves. They were viewed as lazy, barbaric, barely human. Ireland itself was run as a colony for the emerging class of British capitalists. While England
Makes sense why a long time ago I read something that said the Irish was considered the inwards of Europe. I'll tell you this much. My best friend Irish, his last name McMullen, and that's one of the hardest working dudes I know. We worked in a moving company together, and me and him, we put in a different type of work, So nothing lazy. For some reason too, I always attract to I always had Irish people. When I meet them, they really end up respecting me. It'd be a lot of love.
England was rapidly becoming the wealthiest country in the world. Ireland was kept incredibly poor. The population was almost entirely composed of peasants. The large majority of all houses were huts made of mud. And the land those peasants lived on was owned almost entirely by absentee English landlords who never visited Ireland and extracted exorbitant amounts in rent. Even the British government regarded these landlords with disdain, calling them, quote, the most oppressive species of tyrant that has ever lent assistance to the destruction of a country. So most Irish people were on a treadmill of extreme poverty. They were the most destitute people in all of Europe. In many districts, one government report found, their only food is the potato, their only beverage, water, a bed or a blanket is a rare luxury. And that part about the potato is especially important. Ireland has a lot of fertile soil and a topography that is ideal for grazing cattle. But when the British came in and colonized Ireland, they systematically took that land and used it to produce beef for the domestic English market. And so the economically poor Irish turned to the potato, a versatile crop that could be grown in large numbers on bad soil. And while the potato was adaptable, it was also really unreliable. There had been widespread potato failures pretty much every other year in the 19th century. And in the 1840s, a new potato disease, originally from North America, arrived in Europe. Huge potato crop failures sprung up in northern France, in Belgium, and in the Netherlands. But none of those places were as dependent on the potato as a source of food as was Ireland. So when the disease got to Ireland in the 1840s, the results were devastating. In 1845, about a third of the Irish crop was destroyed. By 1846, 75% of it was gone. Hunger spread rapidly with unprecedented severity. This period became known in Ireland as An Drachil, the bad life. But as Amartya Sen observed, this wasn't just about a pure lack of food. In fact, during the entire period of the famine, Ireland was continuing to export food out of the country. Enough cows, sheep, pigs, and grain were being shipped out of Ireland that could feed the Irish population twice over. But the British government refused to do anything about it. Soon, the Irish began begging their British overlords for relief. And early on, the Conservative Party government, then the representatives of the old British aristocracy, had a fairly sympathetic response. They bought food from America and brought it to Ireland, distributing it to the poor. But in 1846, a different party, the Whigs, came to power in Britain. And the Whigs did not have the sort of aristocratic paternalism that the Conservatives had. They were advocates of a philosophy called laissez-faire, the idea that the free market, left alone, would solve virtually any problem. So the person they put in charge of famine relief in Ireland was a man named Charles Trevelyan. Trevelyan had been a colonial administrator in India, and he was a big believer in those Malthusian ideas about population. He didn't really want to stop the starvation. He thought it was, well, necessary. The famine, Trevelyan said, was, quote, an effective mechanism for reducing surplus population. He said it was the judgment of God that sent the famine to teach the Irish a lesson. The real evil, he said, is not the physical evil of the famine, but the moral evil of the selfish, perverse, and turbulent character of the Irish people. So Trevelyan's solution to the famine was to let it ride. The laissez-faire Whigs decided to change nothing. They refused to stop the movement of food to England and limited the amount of food they offered to the starving Irish people. The food that was being imported into Ireland was largely used not to feed the Irish, but to feed the cattle being slaughtered for British consumption. Even when they did offer some relief to the Irish peasants, they instituted moralistic tests, requiring that recipients live as indentured servants in a workhouse to improve their work ethic. The British even required that food only go to people who owned almost no land, forcing impoverished farmers to sell all the remaining land they had to their landlords, many of whom lived in Britain. And so, the famine only got worse. Diseases of hunger like typhus, dysentery, and cholera spread wildly, killing just as many people as the lack of food. Social structures broke down. Ordinary people turned en masse to begging, crime, prostitution. In Western Ireland, some resorted to cannibalism.
Damn.
The British, fearing a rebellion, sent army troops instead of food. As the news of the famine spread all over the world, shiploads of food finally began arriving. Americans from all strata generously sent money and food over the Atlantic, only to have their donations met with huge British cargo fees upon arrival. Even the Choctaw people donated to the famine relief funds. Just a few years after they
Look at the image of them people for a second, man. You know it. America, whoo! Like I'm just thinking, like, because right now, you know, we're going through a lot in the world. In America right now, we go every hour we going through something, and just looking at everything in history and whew, it pisses me off for some reason. Like it just do, because it's like, come on, like who gave people the authority to treat others like this? Like how you sitting here judging people, talking about, oh, it's you know, they're ungodly, this and that, like who put people on these high horses? Who? Well, like we all on this planet. Like, let me relax, cause if I start turning up, y'all really gonna see that dragon come out of me, and I'm gonna start breathing fire on here. And I don't want to do that.
They had experienced starvation themselves on the Trail of Tears. It was a beautiful example of international solidarity. But these donations weren't enough to stop the ruthless exploitation by British landlords. Even when enough food was being imported, it wasn't getting to the Irish people. Starvation and death continued. Impoverished Irish, with barely enough to eat, were evicted from their homes. One priest remembers the scene of a mass eviction. Several hundred human beings were driven from their homes in one day and sent adrift on the world to gratify the caprice of one who, before God and man, probably deserved less consideration than the last and the least of them. The horrid scenes I had then witnessed, I must remember all my life long. The wailing of women, the screams, the terror, the consternation of children, the speechless agony of honest, industrious men, wrung tears of grief from all who saw them. By the time the famine began to end in the early 1850s, about 20% of the Irish population, 2 million human beings, had died of disease or hunger. Another 2 million had left for brighter shores. Today, Ireland's population is still lower than it was in the 1840s. But Ireland has never forgotten the famine and the generosity that some showed to them. During COVID, when the people of the Navajo Nation were hit hard, Ireland repaid their kindness shown to them during the famine by raising...
That's real. That's real right there. They ain't forget. Maybe I feel it so hard because, you know, I got Cherokee ancestors, Blackfoot ancestors, who knows, maybe Choctaw ancestors. You know, and I believe everything's connected. I believe when we feel something in our heart, it's for a reason. Maybe I had a past life in Ireland. I don't know. You know, certain things that when they really get to me, I know it's deeper. It's for a reason, you know. That's messed up. You know, 2 million people dying and then another 2 million people leaving. It's like, that's beyond messed up. You know, when we have nationwide crisis like that, there should be no reason people can't come together. They're going to show you not everybody human. I don't believe everybody here is human. I actually think there's a lot of people here that are very soulless, and I mean that. I believe that. I believe that. Just look around the world. Look what's going on. Ain't no way in hell we all just human or I have souls for that. No, not at all. No way.
$2 million. And Ireland has never forgotten those who did not help them, the British government, and all those who valued profits over humanity. As the British historian A.J.P. Taylor would later write, the English governing class had the blood of 2 million Irish people on their hands. All Ireland was a Belsen. I'm Rory Duffy, professor of history and filmmaker for the Gravel Institute.
That's deep. That's deep. Whew. Woo! I react to a lot of British content. Shout out to my British folks. One thing that stands out, he said the British government. You know, I do my best to interact with the people and connect with the people. I ain't a fan. I ain't a fan of governments, any government or anywhere in the world. To be honest, I'm about the people, the everyday people. Whew. When with that's brutal, and it's like one of the places that I look forward to going to the most, right? When I get my passport and Ireland is on that list. You know, I always picture like when I'm on the cliffs of Ireland and I'm looking into the water. I'm a feel like I made it in life. You know, there even in the UK, all like that's a place that's been calling on me for a long time. So I can't wait to just go and look at the history. And for the Irish Americans, they definitely got a lot to learn because if you're not studying your history, if you're not like breaking out of the so-called American dream and really just out here spreading love and your truth, then what are you even doing? You know, like, are you really making your ancestors proud at that point? Are you really like, because it still be so much like racism out here in America, divided. It'd be so much racism. It'd be a lot of Irish guys that's part of like white supremacist gangs and it's disappointing because when you really look at their culture, that ain't even it don't even make sense for them to be walking around with swastikas. It don't make sense. It don't. Um, they was done dirty too. You know, it was done dirty too. But that's the thing about America. Once you feel like you in that American dream and you in the club, then it gets to your head. And that goes with everybody. Once you feel like you in the club, it's a wrap. A lot of people abuse their power. A lot of people lose their soul in America, and that's the war now. It's a spiritual war going on right now, and a lot of people having a wake up call. Whew. 2 million people is crazy. Then another 2 million, like that left. Like that's it's a lot of bloodlines. A lot of bloodlines. Wow. But that being said, man, I'm out of words. It's insane. It really is. Original link in the description. And if you enjoyed this video, definitely don't hesitate to hit that like, that subscribe, and that notification bell. And I'll be back with more soon. Y'all, y'all keep your heads up and y'all smile out there. Y'all pass around good energy out there, no matter who it is. As long as they, you see a solid person, just give good energy. We got enough wickedness in the world. We got enough ego in the world. We got enough just horrible people in the world. Be that person, that one person that just your energy so good when people come across you, it just has that effect, that snowball effect. Don't underestimate what your energy could do. Much love to you all.